Hold on. I have a clip from a TikTok video that I think is helpful.
Let's watch.
Jamal Bryant, he's a false prophet. He said, I'm concerned by all these Negro preachers who've been talking about this man, Charlie, that was killed.
They having moments of silence in black churches all over the country over a man that
was a racist and a white supremacist. How dare you compare him to Martin Luther King? Notice how many times he brings up skin color. 4 times. Why are you bringing up skin color so much? It's ethnic idolatry. You are more loyal to your tribe and your race and your ethnicity than you are to the people of God. And you know what I didn't like at all? The fact that he called it black churches. Black churches? Like, what is that? Are we bringing segregation back? That's a very weird thing to say. You better believe in heaven there's not going to be a black section singing gospel songs. Jamal, he needs to repent of this ethnic idolatry and dividing the body by skin color.
And then the comparison to Pastor Phillip Anthony Mitchell.
This sounds familiar, no? Hold on.
But I just want to remind everybody this is not a black church. Don't exist here. Your skin is not an idol, nor is it a god.
Stop blaming white cops for the killing of black kids. Instead, teach your black children to be obedient towards authority. And I don't care if most of y'all are black. You need to teach your children to obey authority. We need to teach our sons and daughters to obey authority. We need to teach our children to not fight against authority, not fight against cops.
Okay. Did y'all hear a difference?
Welcome to my channel. My name is Dr. Shareece, and I focus on helping Black men and women heal from trauma and toxic relationships. And falling under this is also religious trauma. It's very sad, what's happening right now with the Christian nationalism in America, but it's the reality of what's going on. And I think it's helpful to talk about it. I've done maybe one other video on Phillip Anthony Mitchell. I think his rhetoric is dangerous, and I have a voice. And so I'm going to say it out loud. There's a few things I think it's important for you to understand about me. I was born in St. Croix, the U.S. Virgin Islands. The argument that happens about foundational Black American and ADOS, I think parts of it we'll touch on as having some validity to them. Like I understand why they exist. I think I'm in one of those special places, and I've never done a video on this specifically, of like, I'm from a U.S. territory. Literally, what does that mean for this movement, right, of exclusion, when me specifically, like the community I come from specifically, is like on both sides of that. Do you know what I mean? So I have this very specific background of living most of my life without having to consider race, because 97% of the people that were around me were Black just like me. Moving to the United States when I was 25, 26 to go to graduate school, right? Already a level of privilege. And moving to South Florida specifically. Florida is different than the rest of the US. Miami is different from Florida. If you know, you know. And so learning incrementally and then moving to Ohio, which is like 97% white. It's probably 70%, but like mostly white. The differences in the culture shock, I think, just give me a unique perspective because I'm always learning. I was studying psychology. I'm a psychologist. And so all of that framework comes into play now. I also grew up in the church, right? Black church. I mean, there was only Black people, but culturally, it very much like Black songs, revivals, like what Black people do, and was non-denominational. I read the Bible. Right? I mean, we was doing Bible study at home with my father. Highly religious family that I grew up in. I'm not religious anymore. The more you learn about the Bible, how it was put together, why the Bible is the way it is, how Christianity formed throughout the world, the harder it is, I think, to believe Christianity. Now, I love Jesus, and I don't say that as like Jesus is king, Jesus is God kind of thing. I view Jesus as embodying Christ consciousness and God, like oneness with God. And so I say in Jesus' name sometimes, but it's not like I view Jesus as big G God, right? Big G God is everything, like every. And I view Jesus as little G God in a similar way that I view myself as little G God. Like we are all waves in the ocean, but we're not the ocean, right? I don't view Jesus as the ocean. And so I've done a lot of deconstructing Christianity. I've also done a lot of decolonizing, specifically in my practice when I'm doing psychotherapy with people, but also in the way I understand society, how the world works. and anti-Blackness, right? Anti-Blackness is a world phenomenon, unfortunately. Everywhere that Europeans touch down to obliterate, to steal, to pillage, right? Colonialism, there is a version of anti-Blackness in those spaces. And so America is unique in that the way it's been done here, specifically chattel slavery, and if you don't know, right, I strongly encourage you to watch the old videos of Julesy and Fort Harriet, because that's where, in addition to like my real life, right, my real life, talking to people, reading books, also coming on YouTube and watching those videos, they have masters in like African American studies. They did a lot of the research. They read even more books than I have read to really break down what happens in America and why it's different than other places. Chattel slavery was literally breeding Black people to make more Black bodies so that they could do more free labor for them. It has not been done like that in any other place in the world. America is unique in how they devalued Blackness, right? Dehumanized Black people so that they can extract resources from Black people to build up their country. It is just one of the horrors of America that is insidious, because white people love to deny it. It's just, oh my God, just love to deny that racism exists in America, because they like to do like all of the dog whistles and the underhanded thing to gaslight Black people. All of this is important. Let's talk a little bit about xenophobia, because one of the things that European, they usually, when white people came over to America, they had an ethnic identity. German, Polish, where else did they really come from? There weren't a lot of French, Italian, right? All of those sorts of people, they had an ethnic identity. To dehumanize people, you have to make them lesser than. And that's when they like created this whiteness. Part of that at the same time, because they did it, every ethnic minority that traveled over to the US, that immigrated to the US, became othered, right? You're going to take our resources. You're going to make life harder for us. We're going to have to give you things or give you jobs or whatever. That has been a part of America's history for as long as America has been in existence. So xenophobia is ingrained in the politic of America. They are always afraid of the other, of the new, of the whatever. Xenophobia is not something that's commonly seen in African cultures. Black people, and I don't know if it's like we were the first people and we were one with Mother Earth, and so we just saw unlimited. When Black people traveled across the world in the very, very olden days, they did it to learn. They did it out of curiosity. They didn't do it to steal and to harm other groups of people. Why white people are like this, I do not know. And I, really try hard not to demonize white people, because it's not all white people, but it's important, I just think, to consider that there are differences in the way that our tribes were, because people also like to use the example of, Africans also enslaved people, but they didn't do it anywhere near. The way Africans enslaved other Africans was probably more like an indentured servant than the way it was done in America, where it's like you're not even human, like you're a piece of meat, like cattle. It's just insane the way it's done specifically. But so xenophobia is very American. It's just very American. Other places are xenophobic, but a lot of those places have people from European countries, right? If you think about Australia and how, the indigenous tribes, they've othered them. And when immigrants try to move over, they're just very, just like, you're a threat. So when Black people are xenophobic, they're usually American, right? Because in America, that is the message that you're given, that there are all these hierarchies that are in place. And so the person that's under you is trying to take something from you. When the reality is that's never really the case. White people are just afraid of Black people treating them the way they've treated Black people over the hundreds of years. Unfortunate. I think all of this is important. If you're still here with me, I think all of this is important to put Pastor Phillip Anthony in perspective, because he is from Trinidad. Now, I don't know if he was born there or if just his parents are from there. Being raised by an immigrant family, especially Caribbean, puts new perspective, I think, on why this man would say he's not leading a Black church when he's Black. Because if you're being raised in a family of immigrants who did it the right way, because there's immigrants when they move to the States also understand that, oh, there's a hierarchy. There's like a right way to do it. Like the white people have a way of praising people who do things in a certain way. We're the good ones, right? I don't know the story. I'm just only hypothesizing about why he might get to a place where he would literally say to his black church that this is not a black church. He probably did not have a strong racial identity. That's no jab to him. I did not have a strong racial identity until I moved to the States. And everything in America is about race. You learn quickly. You learn the subliminals pretty quickly. There's still a lot that I miss, right? There are a lot of microaggressions that I miss with white people. But you learn quickly that in America, they care about race. Race puts you in a certain level of treatment, right? You're treated a certain way based on how you look, whether it's skin or the designer things that you wear or where you go to school or whatever. You're treated differently. I don't know where this man grew up, but the teachings that he got in his home, I would guess, did not emphasize racial identity as something that could be targeted. I don't know if that makes sense, because my parents are very pro-black, but without the context of white supremacy, it doesn't land the same. Pro-black for what? I'm just happy to be me. In America, I feel pro-black to the point of there are literally people plotting on my demise now. It's an overarching thing in America where they do not want to see me be successful. They do not want to see me be happy. That piece is missing when you grow up in a homogenous place, or you grow up with parents who don't understand the intricacies of American culture and how you would need a buffer. That yes, you are inherently just you and great, but also there's all this context of blackness in America that needs to be considered so that you don't sound like a white person when you're talking about race in America. Does that make sense? So everything that Pastor Phillip says is not a lie. That's like with anyone. I have this gripe with Umar Johnson too, because there are truths mixed with lies. There is taking the Bible literally versus taking the Bible in context. There is people who don't do their own research, and so they depend on the pastor. And then anti-blackness is baked in. I think everyone is anti-black unless they've been explicitly taught not to be anti-black, or if they unlearned it, right, in adulthood. This man is very anti-black. The only way you get to the point of sounding like a white supremacist is being anti-black. And so it's why I prefer using anti-black versus racist, because people get like very uncomfortable with a black person being racist, because racist also comes with the power and influence to be able to do things. And black people don't really have much power in America. But you can be anti-black without needing any systems behind you. It's the belief system that black people need to know their place, that black people are, all those negative stereotypes, thugs, criminals, right, that they don't follow the law. This is part of what Pastor Phillip's messaging is, and why it's like so insidious, because there are a lot of black people of a certain generation, but then some of that trickles down to some people now, young people, right, people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, who believe black people need to know their place, right? Who believe in respectability politics and that we have to do things that white people would approve of in order to be valid. No, you don't. No, you don't. And in fact, if most white people agree with you, I would say you're probably on the wrong side of history. And so I strongly encourage you to do your own research, to read the Bible for yourself, if that's something you care about, but to even read other books about how Christianity came to America in the first place, why there is a black church and a white church in America, how they use Christianity and the Bible to enslave and subjugate people, and how the Bible is used to keep women subordinate to men in the church and in reality outside of the church. That is an extension often of patriarchy. And once you deconstruct, you can really buy out of God as a man, the pastor having to be a man, that the head of the household has to be a man, that all these things are generally in place to keep women, minority groups in their place, so that they don't question the status quo and that they do things that are in line with the people who want to make the most money. I think this will also help black people, right, to stop putting black men on a pedestal, right? When a black man is successful, he's like lauded in the community as doing something extraordinary, when it's honestly not that extraordinary. But because so many black people, black men have been kept out of places by white men. When it does happen for a Black man, there's so few of them that get to reach a certain level of success that people think they have to hold on to them by any means necessary. And I do think Black people are familiar with being lied to, and being talked to poorly is also something that's common in a lot of Black communities, right? Like 40% of Black people live in poverty, which means the ones that aren't that far away from living in poverty. Very few people make more than $70,000, $80,000. And so, yeah, it's just like a hop and a skip away from a lot of the way things were done in the past, where you're used to being disrespected, having to take disrespect in order to get ahead, that you would view Pastor Phillip talking so poorly about Black children and the community as something good, right? That you would view it as something good when in fact it's not, but it feels familiar. Like if you think about, I was thinking I did another video on the cruelty online, but in the Black community, I mean, cruelty is online, period, because those little white teenagers, men in their 20s that have nothing going on for them, say some of the most heinous things, and then they're the ones that go and do the school shootings. But in the Black community, the sort of cruelty or the commonplace of cursing people out, I guess, I don't know how else to put it. Like if you think about the Black Housewives shows, if you think about Nicki and Cardi B online, like that is not unfamiliar to most Black people. Like that in their personal life, they have seen somebody go back and forth like that in vile and disgusting ways. And so when you go to church, he's not being vile per se, a bit disgusting, maybe a little vile, but it's not like he sounds like the auntie and the neighbor arguing or, like being downright nasty to each other. And so it's not that bad, right? Like they've heard worse, so this is not that bad. And I'm here to tell you, this is just that bad. This is bad. This is bad. Like the message that Pastor Phillip is sending is bad. It is very much in line with Christian nationalism and wanting to feel morally superior to other people so that you don't actually have to do anything differently in your life. Like you don't actually have to treat people well because you're better than them, right? You believe in Jesus and so you're going to heaven and all these other people don't even matter. It's part of why the rapture stuff is like people would rather believe that God, Jesus is coming than do something differently in their life to help other people, than to vote for provisions to help prevent climate change from worsening. Would rather highlight Charlie Kirk as being a Christian than to have thoughtful discussions about how he was using dog whistles and really saying very negative, similar white supremacist things about the Black community. That's what we get when we look at Christian nationalism and put Christianity above humanity. Because in America, Christianity is whiteness. They don't even believe in God. They believe in whiteness. They're worshiping whiteness. They're upholding whiteness. The status quo of middle-aged, rich white men. That's what Christian nationalism is upholding. It's also why the Taylor Swift album doesn't hit the same, because it's a lot of the talking points that MAGA people use, right? That you need to get married and have babies, and that bad bitches are really not what you want to be, right? A woman who has agency, who does whatever she wants in her life and with her body. It's just a lot. And it's all interconnected, but specifically, I think it's very, very, very important for Black Americans to get together with other groups of Black people across the diaspora, because it's not us against each other. It's us against the illusion of white supremacy. We need to look out for each other. That's really the moral of all of this. And how they say, all skin folk is not kinfolk. That Harriet Tubman had to leave some Black people because they wanted to, snitch to the white man, or they wanted to stay with the devil that they knew versus go out into the freedom that they didn't know. That there are some people that believe so deeply in the whiteness, supremacy, hierarchy, Christianity, evangelical, all the stuff. There are people who believe that, and that there's no way you're going to be able to save them. And so if you've made it this far into this video, I think you're one of those people who either already deconstructed or that you're open to learning more about how Christianity in America is just a tool of white supremacy to keep people in line so that they vote for the things that rich people want. All connected. Let me know what you think in the comments. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it or learned something. Subscribe to my channel for more videos like this, and thank you for watching.